So if you have clicked on this video, it means you know something about Babur, probably that he was the founder of the Mughal Empire in India, and you're pretty much curious about this incident when he was humiliated by this king. But before we get into that incident, it's better to have some background about Babur. So don't worry, I will not bore you with the facts and the figures and all that. So let's start with the background first. Babur was born in the Fargana Valley of present-day Uzbekistan in 1584. He was just 13 years when he had to ascend to the throne because his father had died in an accident and there was no king in the kingdom. He loved his father very much, so he wanted to do something for him, and what's better than to fulfill his father's unrealized dream, and that was the Samarkand city. His father wanted to capture Samarkand but he couldn't, so Babur decided to march towards Samarkand. But the problem with the teenagers like him is that they consider themselves as very smart and think that they can easily outmaneuver the other experienced guys, but that doesn't happen in reality. So when he went out of the Fargana Valley to capture the Samarkand, the conspirators there in the Fargana Valley staged a rebellion there and snatched the throne. So in his desperation to capture Samarkand, he lost Fargana and couldn't even conquer Samarkand too. And now he is left with no territories at all. And it all happened thanks to his inexperience. Therefore, I say experience is very important. One of the good ways of having experience is listening to the biographies of great people, because we as humans tend to make mistakes again and again. And if we could understand that pattern, we can improve our life a lot. So that's why I have started this channel, and I think if you subscribe to this channel, you will definitely learn something. So let's get into the story right away. Chapter 1: A Miserable Life. We saw how he lost his territories to his rivals because of his ambition for Samarkand, and without territories he is no longer a king. Now he had two options. First, he could seek asylum at one of the kingdoms of his uncles and cousins, but one thing would come with this, and that is humiliation. He would be denigrated by his relatives for losing such a prestigious kingdom, and his self-respect would suffocate there. The second option is that he would have to struggle. A struggle to recover his kingdom back, and for this, he would have to build a bigger army, and it will take time too. As he had faith in his capabilities, he chose to struggle over subjugation and decided to live an ordinary life for the next 3 years. He planned that he would spend his time with the peasants and herdsmen and would recruit men from those hill tribes to expand his army. So he, along with his guards, roamed around the mountains of Central Asia. His story shows us that sometimes real life takes such a dramatic downturn that even a fiction fails to match. The conditions have turned so adverse that a prince of the royal family had to live with the ordinary peasants in their humble huts. He had to sleep with them on the rocky ground and had to share the meager meals which they could. And it was clearly a life of misery for him, because don't forget, he belonged to the royalty and he once had all the luxuries with him. And therefore, in real life, struggle is actually a struggle. It's not so easy. But however, he was able to pass through this phase, this seriously depressing phase, because of his strong determination to recover his kingdom and get his self-esteem back at any cost. And then, year 1501 came, when he was finally ready with a sizable army. He planned to attack Samarkand first because it would give him his self-respect back, as it was a super important city of that time. So he began marching toward Samarkand for the second time, and this time his army was successful in capturing the fort city, and it was a moment of great relief for him. Finally, he was able to win some territories and get his self-esteem back. And he was celebrating his victory too. But the game of geopolitics is not so simple, because a tragedy was waiting for him around the corner. Chapter 2: One Predator Became the Prey. When Babur was celebrating his victory in the fort, the troops of Muhammad Shaybani were encircling the fortress. Now who is this new player? This new character in the story was a powerful ruler of Uzbeks and was a sharp military strategist. With this move, he besieged Babur within the fort and forced him to surrender. So the predator had become the prey. and Babur was trapped in such a precarious situation which he had never imagined. Utilizing this situation, Shivani coerced him to give his sister in exchange for his safe departure from the city. This move of him ensured that Babur would not attack the Samarkand city in future. With no other option available, he had to accept those demands and he was allowed to leave the fort safely. After losing Samarkand, the only hope left before him was his kingdom, the Fargana Valley. But there is a saying that when it rains, it pours. It means that when you pass through bad times, you face failure wherever you go. And that was the case with Babur too. He lost Fargana also and now he was back to zero. Despite making all these efforts and despite struggling for 3 years. And then began the most depressing phase of his life, which he has himself mentioned in his autobiography, The Babur Nama. Chapter 3. When one is alone, totally alone. So now he had lost again and again there were 2 options before him. The options were the same but one thing has changed and that was his self-belief. His self-belief was in tatters and his self-confidence was on its extreme low, all because of this failure. And this is the effect of repeated failures. When we fail repeatedly in our attempts, it gradually degrades our self-confidence into self-doubt. And when we lose this self-belief, we lose our fire. The fire that pushes us to fight back. And this is the most critical moment of one's journey to success. Babur has confessed in his Babur Nama that he had lost all his hope to recover his kingdom ever in his life. And therefore, he chose option 1. He sought refuge at Tashkent, which was ruled by his maternal uncle. But as expected from the relatives, he was subjected to disrespect and dishonor. Babur has written in his autobiography that during my stay in Tashkent, I endured much poverty and humiliation. No country or hope of one. And there is a good saying in English that there is light at the end of the tunnel. This saying will become much clearer in the next chapter. Chapter 4. Life gives opportunity. And this opportunity came to Babur in the form of Kabul, that is Afghanistan. In 1504, the ruler of Kabul died unexpectedly and he left an infant as his successor. So practically the throne was vacant. And therefore, nobles of Kabul began fighting among themselves to capture the power. Babur sensed this political instability as an opportunity for him and he hastily gathered his force to march towards Kabul. On reaching Kabul, he displayed his military skills and successfully captured the throne, and he did so by suppressing the rebels and wooing the powerful nobles there. Learning from his past mistakes, he made adequate arrangements to maintain his hold over Kabul, and therefore he was able to rule Kabul until his death. And one thing is important to note here, that since his fall from Fargana in 1494, it took him 7 years to get a stable kingdom for him. It's really a long time period. Anyway, the strategic location of Kabul gave him the advantage to expand in 2 directions, Central Asia and India. And I hope you know that there was no Pakistan back then. This whole region was called Hindustan, as Babur has himself noted in his book. So now he again looked towards Samarkand, his old love, the great obsession of his life. This was his 3rd attempt and this time he made an alliance with the Safavids of Persia. He again invaded Samarkand in year 1511, captured it but again lost it to the Uzbeks. And this time it was finally clear to him that Samarkand is not in his fortune. And therefore he abandoned Samarkand totally and never returned to it again in his life. So his ambition to expand in Central Asia was dead. And the only option left before him was India. Chapter 5. India, the land of his fortunes. So he began planning his strategy for invasion in India. And for this he closely examined the political powers of India. And there were 3 major powers. The Vijayanagar Empire of southern India, which was ruled by Krishna Dev Rai, the Rajputs of northwestern India, and the Lodhis, or basically the Afghans, of Delhi Sultanate who ruled Punjab and Gangetic Plains. Based on his analysis, he regarded Krishna Dev Rai as the most powerful ruler of India and therefore he never tried to venture in southern India. He focused entirely on northern India. In northern India, his eyes were on the Punjab first. And by the way, during these years of analysis, he was modernizing his army and was preparing his forces for the battles in India. So he was all set and was waiting for an opportunity to invade. And this opportunity came in the form of an invitation letter. The governor of Punjab, Daulat Khan Lodi, invited him to attack Delhi and defeat Ibrahim Lodi. But you may be wondering that why did Daulat Khan want to defeat Ibrahim, who was his emperor? And the reason is pretty simple. Ibrahim was a very boorish man who used to insult his nobles in the court in front of everyone, and this agitated a lot of nobles against him. But anyway, these differences among the nobles made things quite easy for Babur. So in year 1526, Babur's army encountered a much larger army of Ibrahim Lodi in the battlefield of Panipat. This battle is called the First Battle of Panipat, and this is what Babur has written about this battle. By the grace of the Almighty God, this difficult task was made easy to me, and that mighty army in the space of a half a day was laid in dust. Within a week of defeating Ibrahim's army, Babur captured Delhi and laid the foundation of Mughal Empire. Chapter 6. The game is not over yet. The real challenge, that is Rana Sanga of Mewad, who was the grandfather of Maharana Pratap, was closely monitoring the developments, and he was quite determined to expel this invader out of India. So he united all the Rajput kings and gathered a huge army of 1 lakh foot soldiers, and Babur's army was nearly half of it. But Babur had one thing which helped him win the Battle of Khanwa and change the course of history, and that was these cannons which operated on gunpowder. Due to this advanced military technology which he had bought from Ottoman Empire, he emerged victorious in the battle. For the next 2 years, he expanded his territories in the Gangetic region and suppressed various rebellions. And in year 1530, he died in Agra because of some disease. And this is how his story came to an end. By the way, let me tell you an interesting thing. He died in Agra, but he desired to be buried at Kabul and not at his birthplace, that is Fargana or say Uzbekistan. And the reason is that he suffered for 10 years while he was in Uzbekistan region, and he finally got a serious comeback from Kabul. So he had a strong attachment with this Kabul city. But instead of Kabul, the country Uzbekistan regards him as their national hero. Isn't this strange? The place where he didn't get any respect during his lifetime is giving him a lot of honor after his death. And this is the irony of life. Learnings for us. This is the last section of the video and practically the most important one, because here we will be discussing the learnings which we can draw from this real story. Learning number 1. Have patience. It means that good things take a longer time, and so don't be in a hurry to build something big. And this problem is quite common among teenagers, that is Gen Z. They have great aspirations in their life and it's good too. But the problem arises when they want to achieve it quickly just within 1 or 2 years. Look at Babur, it took him 7 years to get a comeback and then another 26 years to build his empire. In simple words, don't quit your efforts just because you're not getting results. Keep trying and have faith in yourself. You will do it. Learning number 2. Don't repeat your mistakes. Doing mistake is not wrong in itself, because on the path to ambition you will do mistake and failures will do come. But the concern is that when you don't analyze your failures, when you don't identify your mistakes, and you don't rectify them, repeating the mistakes takes you nowhere. See, if Babur had not learned from his mistake in Samarkand, he could not have held Kabul for such a long period. So don't repeat your mistakes. And here is the last learning, the learning number 3. Explore where does your fortune work. I am not neglecting the importance of efforts, but there is something like destiny, and I think that everyone has a fortune in one or the other thing. But the point is, are we exploring different fields where our fortune actually works, where it favors us? Because look at his story. He was a very capable warrior who didn't lose any battle in India, but he could never hold Samarkand despite his 3 attempts. So it was his destiny only that brought him to India. His fortune worked in India, and therefore he was able to defeat even the mighty armies. So luck does matter, and find the field where your luck works. And here we have come to the end of the video. Here I have provided the snapshot of all the 3 learnings. You can take a screenshot of it if you want. And also thank you for watching till the end.